Welcome to section 2.2, part 1. This is the 13th session of the CISSP exam prep series. In this session, we'll lay the groundwork for risk management. We'll answer several questions. What is risk management, and what is its real goal? What are the two halves of the process? What do all the core risk terms actually mean? Why must you value your assets first? And how do you build a complete list of threats? Why does this matter beyond the exam? Because every security dollar you spend is really a risk decision. Picture an online grocery platform, deciding whether to harden its payment system or its recommendation engine. Without a way to weigh those risks, you are guessing with the budget. Risk management gives you a repeatable method to spend where it matters most, and to explain that choice to people who control the money. What is risk management? And what is its real goal? It is the disciplined process of finding what could harm your assets, weighing that against asset value and control cost, and applying cost-effective fixes. The first time you run it, the output is the skeleton of your security policy. After that, you repeat it to keep pace as conditions change. Its real goal is not zero risk, because that is impossible. The goal is to reduce risk to a level your organization can accept. What counts as acceptable is unique to each organization, shaped by its assets, budget, and appetite. And remember, not all risk is technical. Accidents, natural disasters, and civil unrest all belong on the list. What are the two halves of the risk process? Assessment and response. Risk assessment, also called risk analysis, examines the environment, judges how likely each threat is and how much damage it would do, and weighs the cost of countermeasures. The result is a sorted, prioritized list of risks. Risk response then takes that list, evaluates safeguards through cost-benefit analysis, and proposes options to senior management. Think of assessment as the diagnosis and response as the treatment plan. One tells you what is wrong, the other decides what you will actually do about it. Why start with risk awareness? Because controls only work when people understand why they exist. Risk awareness is the effort to raise knowledge of risk across the organization. It covers the value of assets, the threats that endanger them, and the responses chosen to address them. When staff grasp what is at stake, they take security policy seriously instead of treating it as bureaucratic friction. Picture a new engineering team that finally understands why a deployment gate exists. Suddenly the rule stops feeling arbitrary and starts feeling like protection. What do the core risk terms actually mean? Let's start with the building blocks. An asset is anything your business relies on, tangible or intangible. Asset valuation is the value you assign it, from purchase cost to intangibles like reputation. A threat is any potential event that could harm an asset, whether deliberate or accidental. A threat agent or threat actor is who or what carries out that threat. And a threat event is the actual occurrence, from a flood to a power outage to plain human error. Think of a threat as a weapon and the threat agent as the hand that wields it. How does a threat actually reach an asset? Through a threat vector and a vulnerability. A threat vector is the path an attacker uses to reach a target, like email, a Wi-Fi network, removable media, or the supply chain. A vulnerability is the weakness that lets the threat succeed, a flaw, an oversight, or a missing safeguard. Exposure is simply being susceptible to loss because that weakness exists. Picture an unlocked side door in a warehouse. The door is the vulnerability, the alley behind it is the vector, and standing there unguarded is the exposure. What is risk, and how do the rest of the terms connect? Risk is the likelihood that a threat exploits a vulnerability, combined with how bad the resulting damage would be. Conceptually, risk equals threat times vulnerability, or probability of harm times severity of harm. A safeguard, also called a control or countermeasure, removes or reduces a vulnerability or blocks a threat, and it need not be a purchased product. An attack is a threat agent intentionally exploiting a vulnerability, whether it succeeds or not. A breach is a successful attack, and a hazard is any source or situation with the potential to cause harm. Threats exploit vulnerabilities, creating exposure, which is a risk, which safeguards then reduce. Why value your assets before anything else? Because you cannot protect sensibly what you have not priced. An asset-based analysis starts by inventorying everything the organization owns, then assigning each item a value. If an asset has no value, it needs no protection. And a safeguard should never cost more than the asset it protects. It makes no sense to spend $100,000 guarding something worth $1,000. Picture pricing every item in a shop before deciding which ones deserve a safe. Valuation weighs tangible costs like replacement and intangible ones like customer trust. What does asset valuation let you accomplish? Far more than a single number. A solid valuation is the foundation for cost-benefit analysis when you pick safeguards. It lets you judge whether a countermeasure is worth its cost. It supplies figures for insurance and overall net worth. It helps senior leaders see exactly what is at stake. And it demonstrates due care, guarding you against claims of negligence when regulators or courts come asking. One honest valuation quietly serves all of these needs at once. How do you build a complete list of threats? By casting a wide net and using a team. Identifying threats means creating an exhaustive list for every asset, covering both threat agents and threat events from any source imaginable. Do not limit yourself to technology threats, because fire, flood, and human error all qualify. Published catalogues from standards bodies like NIST can seed the list. Just as important, use a team drawn from many departments, not only security specialists. A finance clerk and a warehouse lead will each name risks a network engineer would never think of. That diversity is what makes the list complete. So let's bring it together. Risk management finds, weighs, and treats threats to your assets, aiming for acceptable risk, not zero risk. It splits into assessment, which prioritizes risks, and response, which chooses safeguards. The core vocabulary connects cleanly. Threats exploit vulnerabilities to create exposure and risk, which safeguards reduce. You value assets first, so protection stays cost-effective, and you build threat lists broadly with a diverse team. Master this foundation, and the calculations ahead will click into place. The MCQs covering all the topics and concepts from this session are available on rucloud.com. Practice the chapter-specific MCQs before moving on to the next session. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or feedback, post a comment below or email us. I will see you in the next session.